Okay, so for today's lesson, we're going to dig into Python. We're going to, as usual, start out by going to our GitHub page for the course. You can bookmark it if you haven't already. And we can scroll down to the schedule. So this week we're going to do Python basics, strings, printing, and then next time taking input, reading and writing files, and functions. So we're going to start moving pretty fast in the next few weeks and cover a lot of stuff. But between the readings and assignments you're doing with the readings and the in-class material and the assignments, you should get a pretty good treatment of all that. So I'm going to click on lesson 5. And then we're going to download this as usual, so we can click on raw. And you can either go to save as, or you can copy the URL and then open up the terminal. And I'm going to go to SIO 209/lessons. And so you have two options. You can either go save as and navigate to that folder, and save it there. And you probably want to remove the .txt. Or you can go back to the terminal and do a curl dash capital O, and then in quotes type Command C, paste that URL, and then close quotes, and then hit enter. And then I'll use my special shortcut here, and you can see that this file, this lesson 5.ipynb, is now in my lessons folder. People able to get that far? Any questions? Okay. Next, who can tell me what we want to do? What would the next thing we want to do if we want to open up this notebook?
Source activate.
Exactly. So we need to do source activate. We need to activate our Conda environment that we created last time, because that's got the Jupyter Notebook software installed inside it. So we're going to do source activate Python 3. And we can see that we're now in our Python 3 environment that we created. And now we can type Jupyter Notebook and hit enter. And this will go to whichever web browser is your default web browser. And we'll see the notebooks in that folder are listed at the top, and then all the other files below that. So now we can click on lesson 5.ipynb. Did that work fine for everybody? Okay. Sometimes it will say the environment used to make this notebook is not available. What do you want to do? And you'll just have to choose which environment you want to use with the notebook, because up here under kernel, we can actually change kernel to a different environment. We don't have that option right now because there's only one that is set up here, but there's potentially options to use other kernels. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't need to type source activate, it's possible that you already installed Jupyter. So what you might have done is, so after you make we actually made the environment with Jupyter when we made the environment, when we did conda create, and then we listed the packages, and the package that we listed was Jupyter. But if you had done just conda install Jupyter, not inside an environment, just normally, it'll work. It'll just install it for your whole system. So you don't have to use conda with virtual environments. Right. So if I go back to, or here, I'll do this. I'll go to the tab, my home for the Jupyter, and I can go on New Terminal. So this is just going to open up a terminal window for me. I can say which Jupyter, and you're going to see that Jupyter is living inside my home directory, and then miniconda 3. That's the location where we stored. That's the location where we stored miniconda when we installed it. That's what I recommended you guys to do, is to just install it in your home directory. And then within that, there's a folder called ends, and then a folder called Python 3, which is the name of this environment. And then under the name of the environment, there's a bin, and then within that bin are all the packages that we installed. So we could also do which. I think we installed pandas. Nope. Nope. I'm trying to think what other packages. We could do conda list. That'll list all the packages. So okay, I'm not sure why those aren't working, but anyway, the most of these packages, if they are things, I guess the reason that those which commands weren't working is those aren't actually executables from the command line. Those are Python packages, so you can't actually type NumPy from the command line. I think that's why that's happening. So Jupyter, we could do which IPython. Yeah, so IPython is an executable. So so that's one that we can type from the command line and do something with. So these are all going to be stored in the bin of this environment. So if you had installed Jupyter from somewhere else, if you weren't in this virtual environment or in any virtual environment, it will get installed in, I believe, let's just do so miniconda 3 has its own bin, which has some other things in it. So like, there are multiple copies. So like conda, that if we type conda now, we're using the conda that's in the Python 3 environment. But if we're not in this environment, and if I do, let's see, and then I type which conda, okay, it's still using that one. Anyway, there's multiple copies of these packages that they can be used from different places. So but the general idea with these environments is that you want the packages to be the version specific for the environment that you're using. And if you want to upgrade or use a different version of a package, having that in a different environment is really useful. So yeah, we can come back to that later, but that's the basic gist of it.
What was the advantage to setting up a virtual environment?
So the advantage of setting up a virtual environment is just what I said. So it's being able to control which versions of packages you're using. So let's say you have a favorite package and you used it. Let's say you're writing your PhD thesis and you have all these software packages that you've installed in your environment, and then you know they work for what you're doing. But somebody comes out with a new version, and it's got this really cool new feature, but they warn you like it's kind of buggy. Like, just be careful. You don't necessarily want to install that and lose the older version that works for your PhD thesis. So you create a new environment that's called like test environment, and then you install that package into that environment. Now you have the ability to test out this new package that might have some cool new features that you want to try, but you don't actually want to lose what you already have. So you can have different versions of packages all on your computer. They're just stored in different virtual environments. Whereas a true environment is like your when we talked about the path and all those programs that in your path, and that's all referring to like your environment, like your computing environment. And there's only really one of those. So if you want to change a package, if you don't have virtual environments, you're out of luck. You have to just bite the bullet. So okay, so we're back here. Quite another question, yeah.
Real quick, what was the command to jump into the command line?
Yes, so from the command line, we typed Jupyter Notebook.
So when I type in which conda, it says I'm within mini conda 2.
Okay.
Environments Python 3. I was doing the homework, so I think I had mini conda 2.
Okay.
So is there a way to, because I noticed a few that showed mini conda 3.
Oh, okay. So in the homeworks, did it say to install Miniconda 2 instead of 3?
No, I might be thinking about Python 2 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's fine if you have Miniconda 2 instead of 3. The only thing is, whenever you create a new environment, you need to specify the Python version. So Python equals 3 will be one of your options when you. Let me see if I can pull up that command. Yeah. So this is the command that we did last time when we created our environment that's called Python 3. Sorry if the naming is confusing. We could have called this Bob Jones, or my favorite environment. We just called it Python 3 just to make it really simple that it's a Python 3 environment. But the key part here that you'll have to do when you make an environment is you say Python equals 3. And that tells Conda to make your virtual environment running Python 3 and not Python 2. Yeah. So yeah, so that command to open, you'll get very used to this, but the command to open this window is Jupyter Notebook. And yeah, I won't go into that. Okay, so we are now here. I'll just take a quick stop in the YouTube